So let's talk about the types of questions that banks should and should not be asking as part of their customer experience measurement programs. Let's start with kind of the more interesting side. What are the wrong questions to ask?
Let's start at the highest level. Again, as I mentioned, I've worked with hundreds of banks and credit unions, from the very biggest to the smallest. And one of the things that you learn after doing this for a while is when you ask, what makes you different? Almost all of them say the same thing. They say, hey, Bruce, what really truly makes our institution different is our customer service. We have the best people. We have the best customer service. And they believe that. And then the next bank says, you know what makes us different? Our customer service. We have the best customer service. And again and again and again. I'd say at least 90% of banks believe that they have the best customer service. And that's what they think. They really think they're the best at customer service. And that's even if they do survey their own customers. Because if they survey their own customers, they generally get pretty high scores on customer service. So does it make sense that it can be the unique strength for everybody? No. Could they all be right? No. So one of the things that I do when I speak at large conventions or conferences, banking conferences, is I have a little trick that I do if I'm in front of maybe 500 bank CEOs. I say, okay, everybody, raise your hand if you think that your customer service stinks. If it's below average, if it's no good. Raise your hand. Room full of 500 bank CEOs. Nobody ever raises their hand. Not once. So then I say, okay, so nobody's below average. How many of you think your customer service is mediocre? Just average, not good, not bad, just average. And generally about a few hands will go up. A few brave people will raise their hands. Never more than, say, 2 or 3%. So then I say, okay. So we've got 500 banks represented in this room. 0% of you are below average. 2% of you are average. 98% of everybody is above average. Does that make sense to everybody? And it's good because that sort of gets people thinking, can we all be above average? Is this like Lake Wobegon?
So does that mean that we shouldn't even ask customers to rate customer experience then?
No, because that would be really hard to do because it's so entrenched in banks. Almost 100% of customer experience measurement programs will ask, please rate our customer service on a scale of 1 to 5. And that's often the number one metric that gets reported to the C-suite and the board. And that's the metric that is actually misleading the bank. Because, for example, you might be doing your own customer experience program and you ask your customers on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate our customer service? And maybe 80% of them score 4 or 5. So that's great. You can tell the C-suite, hey, 80% of our customers think we're good or great at customer service. And then they feel good about that. But they actually have no idea if that's good or not. Because if all the local competitors are at 65 and you're at 80, then yes, you've got a competitive advantage and you're killing it, keep it up. However, if everyone else is at 90 and you're at 80, you are actually a competitive disadvantage. So you really have to compare.
So kind of begs the question then, what should banks change in their CX tracking programs?
Okay, yeah, I think to fix this, there's really 2 things you need to do. Number one is you need to get competitive local data to see how you actually compare to competitors locally. And let me emphasize, local. Do not compare yourself to national or regional data. That's not useful. Unless you think that banking in New York City and banking in rural Kansas and banking in suburban Birmingham are all the same and people are all the same, don't do that. Because if you try comparing yourself to national data or even regional data, it's pretty much, you're very much misleading. So you can't do that. You got to get local competitive data. I'd say the second thing that banks need to do is to drill down into customer service. So it's not enough to just say, how are we doing at customer service, period. You really need to drill down into the different aspects of customer service. Make sure, because there's a lot of different aspects, and make sure that you're not doing really well on the things that are easy and useless. A lot of banks do that. They focus on what they're not doing it intentionally, but they focus on what's easy, what actually doesn't move the needle for customers. Instead, you need to be focusing on things that are more difficult and nuanced that really do lead to customer loyalty over time.